Hope you're ready to get weird. Hello, what's up? My name is Dave Makes Noises, and before we begin, just wanted to please remind you to check out our new channel, Riptovia, which is just like this channel, except the stories are longer, and there are fewer of them per video because, for whatever reason, the YouTube algorithm sees that as different enough from the norm to bury us over here, so there's longer stories over there on Riptovia now. Please don't hurt us, YouTube. Link is in the description. Thank you so much for checking it out, you sweet, sweet angel of cosmic ecstatic bliss. And today, we're asking the fine D&D players of the internet, what character did you make that was an anomaly among their race? Part 1. For me, it was my half-orc strength-based dual longsword-wielding Deepstalker Ranger, Cadmus. Deepstalker is the revised equivalent of Gloomstalker. Cadmus grew up in a small town in a big forest filled with mostly humans called Briar Glen. He only ever knew his human mother, Elizabeth, who had lived on the outskirts of the town her whole life. She would often tell stories to Cadmus, who was always fascinated by them. His favorites were about the ancient elves and their culture. His mother would leave for a few days, letting him tend to the animals and vegetation they grew outside the small shack. Cadmus eventually grew accustomed to life on his own, able to find enough food in the forest for himself and other friendly neighbors from Briar Glen proper, who'd come to ask for the occasional pelts or meats, or to stop and chat with Cadmus and ask when his mother would be getting back. It was a friendly, quiet little town. Cadmus especially liked getting bread at his favorite shop, Wheat's Call, where he would sit in fascination while the proprietor of the shop, an old elven man named Janus Valar, told him old stories that his father and grandfather told him so many years ago. Janus was definitely an oddball. Usually the elves were high and proper, but this one must have had a little human in him, somewhere. He had crinkled old eyes that sparkled as he laughed, and would sometimes sneak Cadmus an extra loaf of bread as he gave a sly grin. Cadmus never knew his father, Vorgak. In fact, all he knew was from some of the stories his mother told him as they sat together in the cabin. She would talk of him as a respectful man, for an orc, and would say that he was too soft for his kind. She said that she felt bad for him. In his tribe, the Bonebreakers, as they were nasty brutes. The tribe leader, Gogmar, was a horrible old brute that didn't care much for the tribe itself, just enough to maintain his leadership. Apparently his father was forced to leave Elizabeth and maintain his position in the tribe, but that didn't stop her. She was always trying to track down the tribe again, to see him again. Apparently they were somewhere in the Nurboldar mountain range, and she was determined to find them. Oftentimes, it took her too long to come home when she refused to come back without him, but she had a promise to Cadmus that she would be back within 2 weeks, every time. Cadmus would wait while she came back, often training with some of his own carved wooden swords. His mother preferred the bow and arrow and always told him that he ought to as well, but Cadmus never did. The sword was always a beautiful piece to him. His mother eventually relented, and even did something for Cadmus that changed his life. One day, after she had been gone for a few days, she came back with 2 beautiful, long, elven-style longswords. Cadmus was ecstatic. She told him that she had gone all the way to the capital city, Axion, and had these swords custom-made by an elven blacksmith named Saldor. Cadmus began training with them immediately. They were light, sharp, and durable, but in just the right way. They were perfect. But one day, after his mother had been gone for 2 weeks, Cadmus was expectantly waiting at the door of the cabin. Peeking out, he watched the passerby walk in and out of the village. The sun was setting. She was late. She'd never been late. Why was she late? Cadmus spent the next few days pacing the cabin. She wasn't arriving. Maybe something had happened? Cadmus didn't know. Eventually, he stood up, shakily grabbed his longswords, and sheathed them in a cross on his back. He wasn't going to wait. Scratching out a quick note to her and telling her he would be back as soon as he got word of her arrival, he left. He left and trekked his way to wherever. He wouldn't stop. He now had 2 goals in mind: to find his mother, now missing, and to find his father, the only known link to her. Cadmus had been by far one of my most favorite characters to play. He's got a cool Texan accent and he's honestly a big mama's boy. My lawful good boy has been one of the most fun to play and level up. Shrooms, the Goblin life cleric. He was training to be a shaman in his tribe, and one day he had a dream with golden rays of light coming from him, and his touch healed people. When he told his shaman about the dream and showed him that he could heal now, he was kicked out of the tribe. He now spends his days wandering the land and helping people of all races, and trying to find out why he has this newfound power and how he got it. He is currently embroiled in a plot of giants in Storm King's Thunder. We were playing adventures in Middle-earth, Lord of the Rings 5th edition. My character was basically the only edgy hobbit to ever exist. Their background was driven from home. They were found in the woods as a child, having no memories and trauma so bad that their hair turned white and their eyes gray. They were adopted and raised by Lake Townian humans, so they acted almost exactly like a human and nothing like a hobbit. Also, they wore shoes, which in Lord of the Rings is a big hobbit no-no. I'm in the session on Discord this character is in at the time of speaking. The party had raided a kobold-infested dungeon and had scored 2 kobold eggs. Mine is an Erd, winged kobold, known as Chatman, currently trying to roll a nat 20 to hatch with a dictionary and spontaneously grip the entire common language. Also, I'm lawful good. I forgot to say that. That's the whole point of this thread. Wish me luck. Rhaegar, my half-orc monk of the Open Fist. He was left on the steps of a monastery as a baby and raised by the monks there. As a result, he tends towards being reserved and mysterious rather than boisterous and blunt, and would much prefer spending his time meditating or reading a book than carousing and getting drunk. I'm soon going to play a character that is a Firbolg Paladin. He has a kind smile and is always calm and collected. He helps those in need and protects the surrounding forest from undead abominations. Except he doesn't. He was banished from his Firbolg tribe for his ideals and soon found a cult that he took an oath in, Oath of Watchers. This cult wants to bring back its old god and need the MacGuffin to do so, which is the party's quest item. His god is the Watcher and would have eradicated most things that we see today in D&D if he wasn't killed by another god. The cult believes that guardian-like creatures are his remnants, e.g. Firbolgs. That's why my character joined. So, in short, I'm secretly the villain. Edit, forgot to say he has horrid charisma, but is really good in deception, so the party don't think I can lie well. Convinced my old DM to let me play a winged dragon-wrought kobold. Her name was something long and draconic, but we called her Vel, as it was what the name started with. Vel was convinced that she was draconic destiny of her people, and that she only got her abilities from the dragon's blood she had drank during a ritual as a hatchling. I had built her with a bunch of feats that improved her fly speed and upgrading her charge attacks, basically made a little cannonball that would dart around the battlefield making spear attacks. It was a fun 3 sessions till she got hit by an enchanted arrow of sleep mid-flight and fell to her death. My kobold arcane archer, Duma. He thinks dark caves and digging are boring. He'd rather spend his days reading or going on an exciting adventure to discover new things. He left his colony to see the world and all the things in it, both wonderful and terrible alike. He learned magic from a mage apprentice traveling to her wizard college for the first time and archery from a ranger he met while exploring a forest. Valric Magic Hands Gwixon, rock gnome barbarian because his parents wanted him to run their magic shop when he grew up and he was not about that life, so he ran away and joined a Goliath tribe. Now he rocks biker leathers and talks with a New Jersey accent.
Hey, I'm walking here.
Idris Basha Cobblebottle, Yuan-Ti rogue monk. Idris never knew her real parents because she was adopted as an egg by a group of adventurers who called her Egbert. 2 of said adventurers, human fighter / paladin, Zasheda Basha, and halfling bard rogue Netta Cobblebottle, slowly fell in love and later retired together, taking Egbert with them. When the egg hatched, they were surprised to find a little Yuan-Ti baby. They rapidly searched for Yuan-Ti names and settled on Idris. As she grew up, however, it became clear that she had none of the usual ability to lie and deceive, to persuade, or even just have a rudimentary understanding of social cues. As a modification of the whole Yuan-Tis have no emotions thing in the book, she also had dampened, not non-existent, just dampened emotions, which furthered her social struggles. Though she did not have autism, I do, and several of my struggles with that were broadcast onto her mystery disorder. In her youth, Idris was raised on the stories of her parents' level 15 exploits, and she was in awe. She would often beg them to tell her just one more story before bedtime. And she swore she'd be an adventurer someday. Her parents were somewhat hesitant to throw their only daughter into the field, but when a racist warlord tried to have Idris killed for simply daring to be a Yuan-Ti, her mothers agreed on 2 things. 1, they needed to move away. 2, Idris was in danger no matter what they did, so why not at least give her training? Idris devoured her training with an ecstatic fervor. Knowing this was her first step to becoming an adventurer, Netta taught her the tricks of the roguish trade, while Zasheda, not wanting her daughter to fall into being a tank, hired a retired monk to teach Idris how to defend herself by deflecting the blows of others. Eventually, years passed, and Idris completed her training. She said goodbye to her mothers and left for the nearest big city's tavern. TLDR, I gave my Yuan-Ti a negative charisma modifier because of a mental disorder inspired by my own social struggles. Johnson Johnson's was a human with very short legs, the reason why he was left to die in the mountains as a baby. Luckily, a couple of dwarfs found him and raised him as their son. Because of the lack of sun and vitamins, Johnson grew very little and was ice pale, and I bargained with the DM to allow me to use the dwarf modifiers, proving, ironically, that being a dwarf is social construction. He fought hard to become a Something's Paladin, lawful good as it was a 3rd edition copy, and Paladins could only be good. He was very gentle, and his favorite food was a bag of raisins, a very nutritive yet portable food to use in travels. Every time I got to a city, I brought 20 days worth of raisins and would give every NPC or friend a bag every time we met. Good times. Greetings, incredible beings, and thank you for outstretching your spiritual tendrils in our direction and for doing so to the very end of this video. I'm asking you once again to please check out Riptovia, our new sibling channel, which is almost the exact same as this one, except the viewers contain fewer stories that are longer because it's important to shake it up a little bit. Wouldn't you agree, my sweet friends? If you have a character that was an anomaly among their race, we want to know about it in the comments section below. If you've got another story that you'd like to share with us, please do so in our official subreddit, r/MrRipper. If you're a DM or a player looking for a group to play tabletop RPGs with, you'll probably have some luck on Mr. Ripper's Group Finder Discord server, which exists solely to help you find, you guessed it, a group. I hope that this week you make some time to finish what you started. If right about now you're thinking to yourself, this guy seems cool, I wonder what else he does. You can find me on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitch at Dave Makes Noises. Somebody gifted me an automaton yesterday. By the time this gets out, I'll already have had it for like 2 weeks, so there's probably a broad assortment of automaton videos on my TikTok by this point. And if you're thinking, automaton, what's that? It's a note that plays notes, but only one note at a time. If you have any further questions, it's worth a Google. Thank you again for watching. We love you here at Rip Daddy's house. Please sub for Nat20s, ring that bell for notifications if you want more, and don't forget to check out Riptovia. Please, 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 and we'll see you next time.